me, Pa?
Yeah, I still have a baby. But where is Dot?
She died, Pa.
My name is Grace Kalaiselvi, and I'm a theatre practitioner and educator. I act, I direct, I create, I write, I make masks, puppets. I started when I was 17. That was in 1994, I think. It's a long time ago, but for the first 10 years, I was just doing theatre in the Tamil language. Thereafter, I stepped out. I have to start back from the bottom, knocking doors, going for auditions and stuff like that. I got into teaching drama, and thereafter I decided I needed something more. And then I went to ITI to study, came back and I started creating my own stuff. This year, I started off with being part of M1 Fringe Festival. A line could be crossed and it would slowly cease to be, as an actor. And thereafter, I worked with the Esplanade. I directed a play called Amma Saris, a children's play. Currently, I've seen some groups who are going back to their roots, like AKT. They actually focus very much on folk theatre, and they bring about the Terukutu element in it. They bring about the Parai dance element in it. So I've seen those forms lately, but most of the contemporarized things are pretty much a realistic drama set. Okay, the sad truth. I started doing Tamil theatre in 1994, right? Ever since then, the push to sell tickets is to your family and your friends. Okay, and until today, I still hear of people telling that each actor must sell 10 to 20 tickets. And to me, that's not an actor's job. To me, it is like that you need to have a marketing team and you need to market to people to sell the show. But you also need to go into the habit of creating new audience or expose what you do. To satisfy both the older generation, the mid-generation, but also the young generation. How do you attract your new audience? Something that we really need to learn. It's a matter of how you present your package of performance as well. People want to know about their culture and their roots, but they don't have access to it at home itself. So one access they could get is through theatre. And if in theatre, language becomes a barrier for the access, something needs to be done about that. Make it simple, simplify your thing. No need to give the purest Tamil. Give it like colloquial Tamil and get the access to the culture. I think it would be wonderful, Rich. Yeah, Avan Theatre still focuses on epic stories. They still want to tackle the Mahabharata, that kind of thing. There's a current writer, Hemang. He loves to work on mythology, bring it to the modern twist, which is interesting. Yeah, he wrote a piece called Shakuntala, which we actually did a recording of a play read last year. It even talks about a lesbian issue inside it, when usually in the Tamil community you don't even go there. So I think things are shifting, which is a good sign. Personally, I like to do work which are women related, mother eye. It's about mother, it's about a child, and it's all stories related to motherhood and not. So I split it into 3 parts. So I did something about birth, miscarriage, abortion, being barren, all the labels that a woman would get associated with childbirth. Second portion was about being a mother and growing up. Third portion was about death. I haven't done the death portion, I'm still writing that. And when I did my Goddesses of Words, it wasn't planned because it's a devised process where I devise out of poetry. And somehow it led to something about sexual assault and harassment. And then it led to racial identity, gender discrimination, racism. And my latest one is about love, intimacy and sex for women, Indian women, which we hardly talk about because it's considered taboo. I think the most important takeaway from me from ITI is the connection with breath, which really gives you a sense of grounding. And there's a whole lot of different things that come out of your acting, your presence, your connection with your audience, the energy that emanates from your fingers, reaching out to them. It's different. And you can only achieve this if you train. The discipline is very much important. You have to give respect to the form. You have to give respect to your body as a temple. Make sure that it functions well in order for you to be the character, to project yourself fully. Theatre is not just writing, it's not just telling people where to stand, it's not just standing and reading a thing and getting into the character. There's so much of depth to it. Because if you just do this, you're just creating a one surface level of presentation to people, and that's not theatre. How do you weave a story? How do you write? Because writing is not just about putting pen and paper together. No, it's not. There's so many character analysis, research process that you need to do to put in to get story created. You need to have all these different skills in your pocket, which you need to know when to pull out what in order for the performance to be better. After I graduated from ITI in 2014, the entire year of 2015, I didn't get a job because there were hardly any auditions for Indian actors. And that's when the reality hit me that there aren't many scripts developed for Indian actors. When realism set in Singapore's theatre, it became the stories of the majority in the country. So obviously the roles for Indians were either stereotypical or the distant cousin or the friend or something like that, but never the main character. And I was like, well, why is that the case? The opportunity is not given to me, then okay, fine, I'll create the opportunity myself. And that's how I started doing my very first show, Mother I, Amana, Ibu Aku. I roped in a friend who had studied at ITI with me, Swahili Safari. And the two of us, we interviewed about 15 to 20 people, collecting stories about being a mother, being women, what mother and the representation, their relationship, everything. And hearing that I was looking for people, some others called me and say, can you interview me? I would like to share my story. So it became bigger. And at the end of the day, we have so much of material and we know we can't present this in 1 hour. And that's when we decided to split it into 3 stories. And it was a beautiful experience because Swahili and I were trained in the same school. So we had a similar vocabulary when it came to how we perform. It was easy for us to get into the rehearsal process. Everybody knew what was required. If I required just an action-based thing, they understood what I'm talking about and automatically it went into it. And my habit is every time you come for a rehearsal, you breathe together. You end the rehearsal, you breathe together. Performance, you breathe before and you breathe after. So we start on a common ground, we end on a common ground. You know, these kind of small things are important for me. Okay, I'll do it in 2 parts. One for the Indian side, and then I'll do it in the English theatre in general. Indian side, I always found for casting, diversity of skin color apparently exists. They have a tendency to choose the fairer ones over the darker ones. They have a tendency to put the plus size ones as the comedy character. This kind of imagery is always fixed and stuck, even until today, which I hope they break and change. For the English side, it's interesting because pretty much casting, for majority of the roles, it goes to the person who has the talent, who goes to the person who can perform and stuff like that, which is good. And it's a matter of who attends the audition as well. But then, if they have a preset conceived notion that your actor must be of a specific race, there goes your all chances. Because a lot of them don't really write that in the audition call. So that kind of casting should go off. Especially for roles where there is no specific name, it's going to be an A, B, C, D character. They, as much as possible, should have different races playing. It's opening up, it's definitely opening up. I've seen a lot of different productions where I've seen people of different colours, different races acting in it. For my very first show, I actually wrote to every single theatre company in Singapore, inviting them, giving them 2 tickets. And they came. And that's when I realised you don't have to depend on your own race. Just do it and people will eventually come and see it and support you. So in terms of getting our representation out, just create it, just do it. Don't have to wait for anyone. For Tamil audience, the one thing I like to say is all of us are bilingual. Yes, we do need to support the language. We also need to support the art form. Theatre is there to help you with the language, but it's not just about that. There's much more than just it being in the Tamil language itself. If you want your representation to be done for the masses, ensure that you also come and support and see it. If not, there's no point for others to take it and do it. For the general audience, Tamils, we have a lot to offer. Our culture, things about us, stories from our background, which I think are enriching, not just in colours, in depth, because there's so much of violence, so much of love, so much of drama in our lives that we would like to share with you all. So if there is a play put up by a Tamil theatre practitioner, whether the works are in English or in Tamil, please do come and support and watch and get to know a little bit more about us. I think that is really important.